Have you ever noticed how the smallest disagreements in a relationship often feel like a giant wall that you simply cannot climb over? Maybe it is something as simple as a pile of books on the nightstand or a sink full of dirty dishes. One person wants everything in its perfect place while the other person feels comfortable in a bit of creative mess. We often treat these small moments like a battle that someone must win. We think that if we just argue long enough or find the right logical point, the other person will finally see things our way and change forever. But the truth is that most of our daily conflicts are not actually problems that can be solved once and for all. They are deep parts of who we are. We live in a world that tells us we need to find permanent answers to everything. We want to fix the problem and move on. However, if we look closely at the way we interact with those we love, we see a much more interesting reality. We see that the goal of a healthy relationship is not to reach a final destination of perfect agreement. Instead, the goal is to find a way to dance together through the areas where we will always be different. To understand this, we must first look at the surface concept of compromise. Most of us think that a compromise is a bit of a failure. We feel like we are giving up half of what we want just to keep the peace. We see it as a deal where both people walk away a little bit unhappy. We think if we compromise on the mess in the living room, we are just putting off the fight for another day. This surface view makes conflict feel heavy and exhausting. It makes us feel like we are trapped in a loop that keeps repeating. We get frustrated because we feel like we are having the same conversation about the same socks on the floor for the 100th time. But what if we change how we see that loop? What if the repetition is not a sign of failure but a sign of life? Beneath this surface there is a hidden assumption that we often carry without realizing it. We assume that if a conflict keeps coming up, it must mean there is something wrong with the relationship or something wrong with the other person. We believe that a healthy couple should eventually reach a point where they no longer disagree about the basics of daily living. This assumption is a heavy burden to carry. It makes us feel defensive. When our partner brings up a problem, we feel like we are being graded on a test that we are failing. This defensiveness is like a wall that stops us from really hearing what is being said. We start preparing our defense while the other person is still speaking. We stop being curious about their heart and start being focused on our own protection. The real secret is to realize that most conflicts are actually about underlying dreams and background history. The mess is never just a mess. For one person, it might represent a fear of chaos or a need for safety. For the other person, it might represent a freedom to explore and be creative. If we look at the structural pattern of how these moments play out, we can see a new way forward. The pattern involves moving from a place of defense to a place of deep listening. Imagine a person who carries a small notebook in their pocket. When a difficult conversation starts, instead of getting angry, they take out that notebook and start writing down every word their partner says. This simple act changes the entire structure of the interaction. By writing things down, you are forced to slow down. You cannot be defensive and take careful notes at the same time. You start to find yourself saying things like, "That is a good point," or "I see what you mean." This shifts the energy from a battle to a study. You are becoming a student of your partner. You are looking for the history and the heart behind their position. This structural change allows you to move into a space of compassion. You begin to understand that their need for neatness is not an attack on your personality. It is a part of their own story. This allows us to reframe our perspective entirely. We can move from seeking a permanent solution to seeking a temporary compromise. A temporary compromise is a beautiful thing because it acknowledges that we are humans who change. It says, "I will move my books today because I love you and I want you to be safe." It also acknowledges that in a few weeks the books might start to pile up again because that is just how I move through the world. Instead of getting angry when the pile returns, we can view it with a bit of humor and kindness. We recognize that this is our dance. We agree to a fix that works for now while knowing we will need to talk about it again later. This takes the pressure off. We no longer have to be perfect. We just have to be present and willing to listen. We are not trying to change each other into different people. We are trying to understand each other so well that the disagreements no longer feel like threats. We can apply this to our daily lives in very simple ways. The next time someone you love says those 4 heavy words "we need to talk," try to find your own version of that notebook. It might be a physical book, or it might just be a mental shift where you decide to listen as if you were a journalist trying to get a story. Ask questions that draw out the history of the issue. Ask about the dreams that are hidden under the surface of the argument. You might find that you are no longer arguing about the dishes at all. You might find you are talking about how someone felt ignored as a child, or how someone feels overwhelmed by the speed of modern life. This deep understanding is what builds the bridge. When you finally arrive at a compromise, make it clear that it is for now. Say, "Let us try this for a month and see how it feels." This gives both people the freedom to experiment without the fear of being trapped in a rule forever. It creates a relationship that can breathe and grow. We can also practice this with our friends and our coworkers. We can stop expecting everyone to be just like us. We can start to appreciate the different ways people organize their lives and their thoughts. This deepening of our compassion makes the world feel like a much softer place. We realize that everyone is carrying their own background history into every room they enter. When we slow down and listen, we are giving a great gift of respect. We are saying that your perspective matters to me even if I do not share it. This path of curiosity and temporary solutions is the way to a long and happy connection. It turns the repeating loops of our lives into a series of gentle reminders that we are still here and we are still caring for each other. We find that the beauty of a relationship is found in the moments where we choose to be kind instead of being right. We can let the books pile up for a while and then we can clear them away together. Each time we do, we are choosing each other over the conflict. We are building a history of listening and a history of love. This is not a failure of character but a triumph of the heart. It is the steady work of staying close through all the messy and neat parts of being human. Every conversation is a new chance to take out your notebook and learn something new about the person sitting across from you. We are all works in progress, and our relationships should reflect that. By letting go of the need for permanent answers, we open the door to a much deeper and more joyful connection that can last a lifetime. If you were to stop right now and look at the one disagreement in your life that feels the most repetitive, what would happen to your heart if you stopped trying to fix it and instead asked a question that revealed the hidden dream your partner is trying to protect?